Steven Woolfe is here, Director of the Centre for Migration and Economic Prosperity. Stephen, very good morning to you.
Very good morning, Mike. How are you?
I'm good. I suppose Keir Starmer would consider this to be not a bad end to the week, because we're talking about two trade deals, one with India and one with the USA, neither one of which, in my view, is going to be fantastic for Britain. The Indian one even more so bad for Britain, because there's going to be a lot of Indian people arriving here who are going to want to work here and probably want to stay here. But it now turns out that the story this morning we're talking about is that all the savings being made from taking the pensioners' winter fuel allowance off them have been dwarfed by the £4 million a day cost of housing bleeding illegal migrants.
Mike, these are truly astonishing and really ridiculous figures.
Yeah,
that we're seeing paying. I mean, we've had conversations on here where we've been doing the research, and I've been kind of estimating, saying it's costing us about 8 to 10 billion a year, and people have been poo-pooing me. They've been laughing at me, saying that's ridiculously too high. And now we have the National Audit Office turning around and saying that it's £15 billion a year. I want people just to tell the weight of that number. Yeah, £15 billion. That's a series of councils across the country, almost many areas, whole budgets for the year of councils in Kent. So how can we afford that? Of course we can't.
Yeah. There's no chance that we can afford it, and it's only going to get worse, because, I mean, I was talking earlier this week, and I wrote a piece for the Telegraph about it, that we're now moving into the private rental sector, so that houses are now going to be commandeered, not because they want to move the people out of the hotels, but because they want to move the people out of the hotels to make room for more people who are coming. That's
right. I mean, I think first and foremost, everybody recognises there is an international crisis about the illegal migration that's moving across the globe. Yeah. I mean, the United Nations even recognises probably about 60 million people. Europol have indicated that we've got about 2.5, possibly 3 million coming across their westerns, easterns and southern migration routes into Europe. That always means that we get a lot more. We've seen the numbers, 40% up this year from last year, crossing the channel with 11,500 now that are here. Yeah. Every time we get one person that comes across, it's around £50,000 to £60,000 per channel migrant each year for them arriving. That's why we've got these huge numbers, and we can't house them. So we're having to basically, I was about to use a very strong word there that I shouldn't do on television, but the local communities across the country you've got families struggling to rent their houses are now being told that their landlords could remove them from those housing because they're getting 5 years at a higher rate and a higher rent from someone like Serco, who's made hundreds of £millions of profit, and they will have to try and find a home in that area for a lot more. This is crushing the spirit of the British people, poor working class people who are having to bust a gut to make ends meet.
And surely it's going to end up with some people being made homeless, because, I mean, we've heard from lots of people who have said they've had eviction notices. You know, it's all supposed to be done legally, but you know as well as I do, people who rent sometimes can be intimidated by their landlords. They don't necessarily know what their rights are. If they get a notice to quit, they might have to just, pick up all their stuff and quit. But if they can't find another place because the prices have gone up through the roof because of people like Serco and others who are getting these contracts, they won't be able to find housing, and then the council's going to have to house them anyway, or put them into a bed and breakfast. So the cost will go up even further.
Absolutely, and that's why you've got councils like Glasgow saying we can't afford to take any more migrants coming up. That is their own fault, because they basically said anybody that comes.
Well, did they not do one of those "we're a sanctuary city" things?
Yeah, they're a sanctuary city, but they also said anyone who comes up into their council, if they're an illegal migrant, will actually not be placed bottom of the list. They will actually be top of the list. Right. So, this is the sort of stupidity that we have running our governments, our civil servants, our local authorities, that they can't understand that as those pictures you've got there of people coming across, there will be families now being placed on the streets and having to be housed by our local authorities. We already have nearly, according to the homeless charities, 250,000 people in bed and breakfast in families. So,
yeah, well, I was given a figure the other day of something like 1.3 million people who are currently looking for housing. Now, they may not all be in bed and breakfast, they may not all be homeless, but they are in temporary accommodation, or what you would call temporary accommodation. And we've also heard from landlords this week, people who have said to me that they've been called by these mystery sort of third parties saying, you know, we'd like to rent your property. How much would it rent for now? 1,000. We'll give you 1,200. And
that's right.
We had one guy who said, look, I told him I don't want it. They said, well, how about 1,400? It went all up to like 1,500 quid for a property, so 50% more. And a lot of people won't be able to give that up.
No, absolutely. I've had exactly the same call. Someone was explaining how Newham, a local council authority, is asking them to do exactly the same because they're running out of places to be able to house those asylum seekers and those being granted permanent right to remain here as well. And even those who have been rejected from the system, told that they're not allowed asylum, they still need to be housed too. So we have now a huge burgeoning problem. And goodness, if you're a young man or a young woman, single, trying to get your own home, you're going to be kicked out. You have no chance of getting a house on the local authority. And why are we turning around to our families and saying our children should not be able to live in the country or towns that they were grown up in? This is a disgrace. But where are the marches? Where are people standing outside the Serco offices waving flags saying that you are the leech leviathans of our economic society? Why are we not turning around to the individuals who run these places and ignore them at restaurants, tell them that they are the pariahs that they are, because they are putting profits and asylum seekers above those of ordinary citizens working hard to live in this country.
Yeah, and you can't tell me either that this Indian trade deal, which is going to allow Indian workers to come temporarily to live in this country for up to 3 years without paying national insurance, but with the right to vote, is not going to end up with them, many of them wanting to stay and overstaying the 3-year temporary working opportunity and deciding, oh, I know, we'll just claim asylum. Why not?
I think this is a disaster in the making. Yeah, it's just like we did when we said that we'd allow students to bring their families over. This is all well and good, and it's fantastic, say the ministers, but actually when you look at the detail, 18% of all the channel migrants are actually Indians that are coming across, Mike. Yeah. When we look at the numbers of the 250,000 people that come here, the largest group of individuals that are claiming asylum after their visas are closed are Indians. Yeah. Now, we know, every one of us knows that a huge amount of hard-working Indians, I have friends of mine who are working with me, I'm going to dinner with some tonight, who are Indians. They are also equally embarrassed by those people that come over here for asylum seekers or renege on their visas, because it reflects badly upon them. And this is where we get the divide. Because governments will not control our borders, have deterrents and stop people, ordinary good people who've done it properly, worked hard, paid taxes, are the ones who are having to look over their shoulders and say, my God, why are we being tarnished with the same brush as these people? Yeah, also, where are all these temporary workers going to be living? You know, where are they going to be housed? Well, don't forget they can get 3 or 4 of them in a room with one of those landlords with Serco, can't they?
Well, yeah, exactly. But that's what I mean. So they'll be taking even more space away from the people that we've already got to house. So in addition to all the illegal migrants, we've now got a load more people coming.
And it's going to be a joke when you hear Rachel Tuppence being able to turn around and say we're going to build huge numbers of houses here. Oh, yeah. We're already building nearly 300,000 houses a year, more than we've ever done in our national history. Yeah. And we want to build more. That we're not going to be able to even touch at the edges the amount of our population growth. It's a fearful time for this country. And it's one solution. Population growth is driving the demand for almost every resource that we have in this country and costing us more. That is being deliberately driven up by illegal and large-scale migration. We should be controlling it, should be stopping it. And I'm looking at the different political parties and I'm wondering which one of you can actually really do it.
I know, it's a very good question. Well, answers on a postcard. Steven Woolfe, thank you very much indeed, Director of the Centre for Migration and Economic Prosperity.